The sun was hot that morning, but the crowd outside our family house did not seem to feel it. They wore black clothes and long faces. Some cried loudly, some whispered behind their hands. The compound was filled with plastic chairs, food trays, drinks, and sadness. My father, Chief Jacob, was finally being laid to rest. I stood near the gate, sweating under my black suit. I had just returned from UK 2 days ago. I had not seen my father in 6 years. Our last phone call was 3 months before his death. He sounded tired, but not sick. And now, just like that, he was gone. They said it was a heart attack. Beside the coffin stood his wife, my stepmother, Angela. She was much younger than him, maybe in her early 40s. She wore a fitted black wrapper and blouse, a black scarf tied tightly around her head. She did not cry. Not once. Her face stayed calm, her lips painted red, and behind her dark sunglasses, no one could tell what she was really thinking. People whispered, that woman was too fine to be a widow. Some said, she was too calm, too quiet, but she acted like she did not hear. She pitied mourners, politely accepted their condolences, and thanked the pastor when they prayed. She looked like a woman who had just lost a husband, but did not lose anything else. As they lowered the coffin into the ground, I looked around. Something about the whole thing felt strange. I could not shake the feeling that I had walked into a movie, a bad one. When the burial ended, family members came to hug me. Some said I looked like my father. Others said I was not the head of the family. I nodded, smiled weakly. I was tired, angry, confused. Just as I turned to go inside, I heard a scream. Ah! She has fainted. It was Angela. She has dropped to the ground suddenly, holding her stomach and crying in pain. Her scarf had fallen off. 2 women rushed to her side. A man called for help. Someone ran for a car. I pushed through the crowd and reached her. What happened? I asked. She said she's not feeling well. One of the women answered, it's her stomach. They helped her into a chair, her hands trembling. Sweat rolled down her face, but when she opened her eyes, she stared at me directly for a long second before looking away. Let's take her to the hospital, someone said. At the hospital, I sat outside the doctor's office. My heart pounded. Was it stress? Grief? Maybe she had not eaten. The doctor finally stepped out. A small man with a tired face and kind eyes. You are her son? He asked. No, I replied. She's my stepmother, my father's wife. He looked surprised. Oh, he said slowly. Then after a pause, he said something that made my whole body go cold. She's pregnant. I blinked. Sorry. She's in her early stage, maybe 2 or 3 months. She fainted due to low blood sugar. But she and the baby are fine. I stared at him. Pregnant? No. That could not be right. My father has posted surgery almost a year ago. He told me himself he could never have children again. And yet, here we are. My father's widow is pregnant and is not his. I did not sleep that night. I kept playing the doctor's word in my head like a broken song. She's pregnant. 2 or 3 months. It did not add up. Chief Jacob had his portrait removed. He told me on the phone, I'm not a full man anymore, my son, but at least I'm alive. I remember laughing awkwardly. Now, that memory felt like a warning I had ignored. The next morning, I visited Angela in her room. She was sitting up in bed, looking peaceful, like nothing had happened. She smiled when she saw me. Ebuka, you came. I sat down. I had no choice. The whole village say you fainted during the burial. She chuckled softly. It's just stress. I haven't rested properly since your father died. I looked around the room. My father's walking stick still against the wardrobe. His slippers under the chair. Everything in the room still smelled like him. It was hard to believe he was gone, but harder to believe what she was carrying. I spoke to the doctor. I said calmly. Her smile faded. I leaned forward. You are pregnant. Silence. She looks away. Yes, I am. You told the doctor it's my father's, but that's not possible. He had surgery. He told me himself he could not father any more children. She gripped the bedsheet tightly. Your father and I were together before he died. Maybe the doctor were wrong. I stared at her. Do you really believe that? She did not answer. I stood up, my voice lowered. You need to tell me the truth. Her hand shook slightly. Then she looked at me, her voice trembling. Ebuka, your father did not trust me anymore. He started looking his phone, watched me closely. But he was distant too. Cold. He thought I was cheating. Were you? She did not blink. No. But her lid moved too quickly. I stepped out of the room, shutting the door behind me. I met Dara, my cousin, outside by the mango tree. He was peeling an orange, slowly, watching the compound like a hawk. She's lying, I said. He did not look surprised, I know. You know? Dara nodded. Your father suspected her. He told me a few weeks before he died. What did he say? That he was going to find out who she was seeing. He said if anything ever happened to him, I should talk to the man he hired. I frowned. What man? A private investigator from Enugu. My heart skipped. Do you have his number? Dara reached into his pocket and handed me an old piece of paper. The number was scribbled on it. He called this man just a few days before he died, but nobody has followed up since. I looked at the number again. Something deep in my gut said this was not just about cheating. It was deeper, and I was ready to dig. That evening, as I sat alone in my father's study, I noticed something. Behind the bookshelf, a small envelope sealed with brown tape. I opened it. Inside was a handwriting letter addressed to me. If you are reading this, then I'm probably gone. My son, watch her. Do not trust her. Smile. I'm trying to confirm something. If I don't make it, find the truth. You must protect this family. I stared at the letter for a long time. My fingers were shaking. Angela was not just a widow. She was a threat. And I was going to find out what she had done. The sun had not risen yet when I picked up my car keys. Dara stood at the gate waiting, dressed in jeans and a faded shirt. He looked more alert than I felt. You are sure this is the right number? I asked. He nodded. I called it yesterday. The man said he remembers your father. Said if we want to talk, we should come to Enugu in person. We hit the road before the compound could fully wake. As the car hummed along the Pompeii expressway, I kept thinking about my father letter. Do not trust her smile. I had trusted Angela. We all did. She was the soft-spoken stepmother, the quiet beauty, the grieving widow. But maybe she had been hiding something all along. The investigator house was small but neat. He opened the door himself, an old man with sharp eye and a walking limp. He introduced himself as Mr. Johnson. He did not waste time. I would lie to you boys. I don't like talking about dead clients, but your father paid me good money. I owe him that much. He pulled out a plastic fold and dropped it on the table. Inside were pictures of Angela, smiling, laughing, holding hands with another man. My chest started. The man in the photo looked familiar. So, grey beard, expensive suit. I leaned closer, and that's when I realized who it was. Wait, that's Uncle Dan. Dara looked stunned. Your father's best friend? Yes, my voice shook. The man who gave the eulogy. The man who cried the loudest at the burial. Mr. Johnson nodded. They were meeting at hotel, at restaurants, sometimes at her friend's salon in town. They were careful, but not careful enough. I sat back, breathing hard. Uncle Dan, my father's best friend, his business partner, that baby Angela was carrying. It wasn't just from another man. It was from his own friend. How long has this been going on? I asked. The investigator opened a notebook. From what I tracked, at least 1 year. That was before the surgery, before the funeral, before my father died. Suddenly, I remember something from the burial. How Uncle Dan had avoided my eyes. How he had left earlier, before the prayer ended. Now it all made sense. Everything. When we returned to the village, I could not look at Angela the same way. She walked through the compound, greeting visitors like a saint, smiling softly, acting like the perfect widow. But now, every time she touched her belly, I saw betrayal. I tried to stay calm, tried to act normal, but that night, I followed her. She wore a long blue wrapper and left quietly through a back gate. No one saw her except me. I trailed her through the dark street, hiding in the shadow. She walked like someone with a destination. She entered a small, quiet guest house on the edge of the village. I waited. 20 minutes later, a black SUV arrived, and outside stepped Uncle Dan. He looked around carefully before entering the same room. I did not need more proof, but I stayed. I waited for over an hour. Then I pulled out my phone and hit record. By the time they stepped out, I heard it all. Video, sound, their voice, her saying, "I don't want to hide anymore." Him replying, "Let the baby come out first, then we will talk." I followed Uncle Dan back to his hotel in town. I was not done. From outside the window, I watched him make a call. I used a sound booster on my phone and pressed record again. He was angry. "She's talked too much," he said. "If she opened her mouth about what we planned, I swear I will do with her. Pregnancy or not planned." I froze. What plan? What had they done to my father? My hands were sweating. It wasn't just cheating. Something worse had happened, and I was going to uncover all of it. Here is the next chapter. Secrets are no longer safe. I could not sleep. The recording played over and over in my ears. If she'd opened her mouth about what we planned, I would deal with her. Those were Uncle Dan's exact words. Cold, sharp. A man who had once called my father his brother. I sat in my car outside the hotel, heart pounding. What did they plan? Was it just the affair or something darker? I sent the video to my secure drive, then sent copies to Dara with strict instruction. If anything happened to me, I said, release everything. Post it online, send it to the press, don't wait. Dara did not ask questions, he knew. The next day, I returned to the family compound. The guests were all gone. The compound was quieter now. But there was a strange tension in the air, like everyone was waiting for something. I walked into my father's study again. I needed answer. Anything. Letters, receipts, diaries, and that's when I noticed one of the drawer had the first button. I forced it open and found a small black audio recorder. It still had one recording saved. I pressed play. At first, it was silent. Then my father's voice came through. Slow, tired, like he was talking to himself. "Dan has changed. Angela hides her phone now. There is something going on. I knew it, but I need proof. Plus, my tea tasted funny last night. If I did not wake up tomorrow. This message is for my son." I paused the recording. A heavy pain pressed against my heart. I could not breathe for a second. Everything was pointing to it. The quick burial, the sudden heart attack, the pregnancy. This was not just betrayal. This was something worse. Later that evening, I called for a family meeting. Everyone gathered in the parlor. Uncle Dan, Angela, my uncle, auntie, even some elders. They thought it was about the will. They were wrong. I stood before them with a speaker and my phone. "I have something to share," I said. Angela shifted. Uncle Dan folded his arm. I pressed play. The room fell into complete silence, and the sound filled the air. Their voices, their laughter, their plan. Uncle Dan stood up fast. "What is this nonsense? That's not me." But I ignored him. I played the second clip. "If she opened her mouth about what we planned." People gasped. One elder dropped his walking stick. Angela began to cry. "Please, Ebuka, don't do this." I turned to her. "You should have thought about that before lying, before destroying a man who loved you." Uncle Dan shouted, "This is all fake. You people don't know what you are talking about." I stepped closer, calm, control, then explained the pregnancy. My father had prostate surgery. He was sterile. Everyone in this room knows it. Now the murmuring grew louder. One of the elders said sharply, "Is that true?" Another one added, "So whose child is it?" Angela broke down, fell to her knees. "It's Dan's. It was a mistake. I did not mean for it to go this far. Uncle Dan stood to her in shock. You said you would not say anything. I'm tired of hiding, she cried. I did not kill him. I only added sleeping drops to make him rest. It wasn't poison. Sleeping drops? Someone repeated. Uncle Dan's face twisted. You fool. He spat. That's why he never woke up. More gasped. Then silence. The truth was out. The perfect widow. The trusted friend. They had done it together. Not with knives, not with guns, but with trust, broken slowly, and with tea. By the time the police arrived, Uncle Dan had vanished. Angela was taken away quietly. I stood in the middle of the parlor, the air heavy with judgment and sorrow. I did not feel victory, just emptiness and anger. But I still had one last thing to do. The lawyer was waiting with the will. It was time to see what my father had left behind. The living room felt like a courtroom. Half the family still sat frozen, replaying the shock from what had just happened. Others whispered in tight corner. The air had turned cold. The police had taken Angela away in silence. No one stopped her. No one dared to speak for her. Uncle Dan had disappeared. His car was found abandoned by the riverside. No notes, no phone. Just gone. Now all eyes turned to Mr. Ubina, the family lawyer, who sat quietly with a briefcase on his lap. He cleared his throat. We are here to read the final will and testament of the late Chief Jacob. He began. My father. My heart pounded as I listened. He had trusted me to find the truth. Now it was time to hear his last words. The lawyer opened the file and began. To my son Ebuka, I leave my house in Enugu and 70% of my properties I share. Heads turns, gasps follow. I did not flinch. To my cousin Dara, I leave the shop at Upper Market. He has served me well. Dara smiled faintly, his eyes on the floor. To my wife Angela, everyone held their breath. I leave a monthly allowance of 15,000 naira to be paid only if she remains unmarried, and not a kobo more. Someone coughed in shock. The silence stretched, then broke into low muttering. The lawyer closed the file. That is all. One uncle stood. Only 15,000 naira. Yes, the lawyer said. Chief Jacob wrote it by himself. I have the original, dated 3 weeks before his death. I sat back, trying to swallow the knot in my throat. He had known. He had seen through her. He gave her nothing. Not out of hate, but out of justice. 15,000 naira. Not enough to raise a child. Not enough to silence guilt. Days passed. The story spread like fire. Angela's secret was no longer a secret. Some said she and Uncle Dan had planned to quietly inherit everything. Marry after 1 year, claim the baby as Chief Jacob's final miracle, but everything fell apart. Angela later confessed in prison. It started as a joke. He made me laugh. I was lonely. Then it became serious, but I never meant to hurt him. It did not matter. The damage was done. The man who fed the whole village was buried by betrayal. Weeks later, I sat alone in my father's study. His walking stick was still there, his books, his old perfume bottle. I lit a candle and I whispered, I found the truth, Papa. But the truth did not feel like victory. It felt like news. My father's widow was pregnant, but the baby was not his. It was a child of betrayal, and I would never forget. The end.